Tech on Demand podcast brought to you by GROWERTALKS. Audio Files, Episode 57. Best Management Practices for Unrooted Cuttings. From the November 2022 issue of GROWERTALKS magazine. Written by Julie Martens Forney. Narrated by Bill CALKINS. Best Management Practices for Unrooted Cuttings. Having someone who can help you weather storms and solve problems is priceless. If you're growing commercially, you actually have that kind of invaluable partner, the American Floral Endowment, AFE. Funded by growers for growers for over 60 years, this organization helps determine effective, reliable solutions to real-world production problems. Things like pest and disease control, cost-effective crop lighting, and improving cut flower and plant longevity. One problem that AFE has been unraveling is handling and propagating unrooted cuttings. Dr. John Dole at North Carolina State University and Dr. Jim Faust at Clemson University helped lead studies on unrooted cuttings. With current supply chain challenges, handling URCs properly is vital to successfully sticking, rooting, and growing a uniform, ready-for-market crop. Make sanitation your top priority. Prior to cuttings arrival, the best thing you can do is sanitation. Clean the cooler and then look at traffic flow, at where the cuttings will be staged, John says. Sanitize benches, top and bottom. The area beneath benches is easy to overlook, but weeds under a bench can have insects and diseases that can affect your cuttings. Trays and equipment need to be sanitized, along with employee clothing and hands. Make sure everything is clean, he adds. This is something we typically do at the beginning of propagation season, but you should also look at all these things periodically during the season. It's not unheard of that problems crop up because of not paying attention to sanitation as things move into the heat of propagation season. Train your staff. I can't overstate the importance of training your team on how to handle unrooted cuttings, John says. Training needs to be ongoing. It requires commitment. We've all been there. We had a training, but if we don't repeat the training, we can tend to drift off the mark. John specifically urges growers to train their crew in these areas related to handling and propagating URCs. Unboxing, sorting, assessing cutting quality, processing, prioritizing, and sticking. Of course, we also need to train on scouting for insects and diseases, he adds. 4 choices for cuttings. To maximize URC performance, the top issue to consider is temperature versus time. This is the key to handling them successfully. When URCs arrive, you have 4 options. 1. Stick immediately. 2. Hold cuttings in a cooler for less than 24 hours. 3. Hold cuttings on a propagation bench for less than 24 hours. And 4. Store cuttings for more than 24 hours. Knowing when to choose each option is vital to your success with URCs. Immediately stick any plants that are poor shippers or that don't hold well in storage. This includes coleus, Chrysandra, euphorbia hybrids, lantana, portulaca, and sweet potato hybrids. You also want to prioritize sticking any difficult-to-root species or cultivars such as thunbergia or lavender. Pull those URCs out of the shipment and propagate as soon as possible, John says. If you hold cuttings in a cooler for less than 24 hours, a temperature of 50 Fahrenheit or 10 Celsius works for nearly every plant type. For cold-tolerant species like geraniums and petunias, 35 to 40 Fahrenheit or 1.6 to 4 Celsius brings benefits. You can hold things longer at a lower temperature and the quality keeps better. A few tropical plants need a warmer, 55 Fahrenheit or 12 Celsius cooler. These plants are actually damaged at 50 Fahrenheit. John suggests that when you unpack boxes, check plant temperatures with an IR gun or temperature probe. If it's over 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 21 Celsius, remove the cuttings from the box so they'll cool quicker. Spread cuttings out on a tray, put them into coolers, and get the heat out. A warm box is not going to cool down fast enough. Insulated boxes keep cuttings cool in shipping, but they also trap heat. Use this same method of unpacking URCs and getting them into the cooler if temperature upon arrival is between 60 Fahrenheit, 15.5 Celsius, and 70 Fahrenheit. If the shipment has been delayed, or if you plan to stick cuttings the next day. What we really love to see is that temperature is 50 to 60 Fahrenheit, John says. If that's the case, simply stick the boxes right into your cooler. If you opt to hold URCs on the propagation bench so light can jumpstart photosynthesis and recharge the cuttings with some carbohydrates, make sure they're not stressed. During shipping, cuttings have been in a box with no light, so this method can help. Just be sure to turn off the bottom heat and turn on the mist, John explains. The last option, holding cuttings more than 24 hours, is simply not recommended. Some species store well if temperature control is excellent, John stressed, but in the middle of the season, temperatures in the cooler can shift a bit because you've been putting a lot of plant material in there. That's not a good situation. Some species that do store well if cooler temperatures are spot on include Argyranthemum, Chrysanthemum, New Guinea impatiens, Osteospermum, and Petunias. Best sticking practices. Only take the number of cuttings into the greenhouse that can be stuck within an hour. At this point, cuttings are near the end of their storage times, so they're going to have a low carbohydrate status. That means they're even more sensitive to temperature, John explains. As cuttings sit on the bench waiting to be stuck, keep them out of direct sunlight. They should be loose on trays, not sitting in bags that can heat up. You can even put a little shade cloth or a rematch on top of them to keep the temperature down. Crew leaders should be aware of upcoming work breaks too, John adds. Don't let cuttings sit out while the crew is on break. Delayed shipments. Stick or replace. When delays are excessive, cuttings experience moisture loss, low carbohydrates, and possible pathogen development. In some species, ethylene sensitivity increases as carbohydrate levels drop. If cuttings are stressed due to shipping delays, you might see dropping leaves, leaf yellowing or death, dead growing tips, or disease. Some signs like slow and uneven rooting won't show right away. Those are some of the worst problems in some ways, John says. Cuttings won't root and grow uniformly, which will mess up production schedules. At this point, the question becomes, do you stick a low-quality cutting and risk poor quality, or request a credit and replace the cuttings? Either way, you risk missing production schedules on crops, which is a big deal. As we pondered this question, we came up with another one. Can we replace the water cuttings have lost prior to stick, John shares? Is it possible to rejuvenate cuttings and shift them from low quality to high quality? His team researched recovery solutions that could be applied to cuttings to try to recover quality when shipments are delayed. We realized that if we're trying to treat cuttings with water, we could easily add other compounds, including spray adjuvants, fungicides, sugars, and hormones, he says. They used plain water as a control for comparison. Here are the results. Post-harvest cutting dips and recovery solutions clearly improved rooting with all three plants used in the study: geranium, New Guinea impatiens, and poinsettia. The best recovery solution recipe for geraniums and poinsettias is a 30-minute dip into 400 ppm KIBA, which is a water-soluble IBA, plus either fructose or Pageant fungicide. The best recovery solution recipe for New Guinea impatiens is 0 to 30-minute dip into KIBA solution at 400 ppm. Not only do recovery solutions help rooting, but turgid cuttings are physically easier to stick. Unstressed cuttings also benefited from being tipped in a water plus adjuvant solution. All recovery solutions included capsule, a spray adjuvant, or wetting agent. Adding wetting agent lets water bridge the waxy cuticle on leaf surfaces. Capsule improved cutting turgor, which was particularly important with tiny cuttings like New Guinea impatiens, John says. He can see these dips playing an important role with sticking other bedding plant crops. Because we saw positive results, even with unstored cuttings using the wetting agent solution, I suggest working dips into your propagation process no matter what, he advises. Overall, a 0-minute dip produces slightly less rooting than a 30-minute dip. We didn't have time to do intermediate dips, but I'm guessing an intermediate dip would work as well as a 30-minute. A quick dip works, but if you have the time, the longer duration could be better. He suggests testing dips, trying different recipes to see what works best for you. To refine time frames, pull the cuttings out every few minutes to check turgidity. A clue that cuttings are submerged too long: water-soaked patches on leaves where tissue is dyed and cells have exploded. The full research report contains the recipes used in the research. To view the free report, visit endowment.org and go to the final research reports under the Research tab. Scroll down to Post-Production 400 series and look for the report number 460. The end. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Audio Files from the Tech on Demand podcast, brought to you by Grower Talks. Please take a minute to leave us a positive review, It'll help us reach more greenhouse professionals.